Breaking news, Amazon just got sued by the government. The FTC and 19 states just filed a lawsuit against Amazon, claiming that there are antitrust practices at Amazon, hurting sellers and hurting consumers. Now, I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I just brought on a seller advocacy lawyer who has a not-for-profit and does some lobbying on behalf of sellers. He has read through most of this complaint, and we are going to discuss some of the things that the government brought up. It's not as good as you think, and you'll see why in this interview. Paul, thank you so much for joining me really quickly for this incredible news. The reason I wanted to talk to you today is because I know you've been super involved with representing sellers against Amazon, and I want you to take a minute and tell us about the efforts you've been making for the last few years, the organization that you have, and then we'll get into what this lawsuit today means, potentially for sellers and what the claims are. So if you can give us a little bit of a rundown.
Sure. So yeah, as you said, I've been actively involved in trying to build a seller advocacy organization. It's something I do in my spare time. It's called the Online Merchants Guild, onlinemerchantsguild.org. It's a purely volunteer project for me. We raise money and we use the funds to hire lobbyists, hire lawyers. We take on interesting cases or interesting challenges. And certainly, antitrust investigation of Amazon's business practices was a huge deal. Investigation was really kicking off, pre-pandemic. I think even 2019 is when it all started. And then obviously, as that was evolving, we wanted to make sure that the voice of the Amazon seller was heard. I mean, this to me, this was the most profound sort of thing that happened that could affect sellers. And so we spent a lot of time gathering information, gathering stories, and submitting our information to the House Antitrust Subcommittee back in, 2020, 2021. I'm trying to remember. It's been a minute. And we honestly, when they put out their final report after they interviewed Bezos, we were our work was the number one cited resource in the Antitrust Committee's investigation. So very proud of that, and very proud of that ability to sort of bring sellers in the forefront. I think where we kind of lost sight and lost track was that I don't think our goals were fully aligned with what the antitrust members were trying to do. Lena Khan, who is now gone from being, counsel for the antitrust subcommittee to head of the FTC. I don't know if we're achieving what we want, but it seems to be that obviously when an organization takes Amazon to task on a scale like this, I do think there will be benefit from it. I find it hard to imagine that we won't, as sellers, benefit from it.
Right.
But are we fully aligned in terms of what we would like to see happen versus what they would like to see happen? I don't know. I think, the rumor on the street is, they really want to break up Amazon. I'm not sure that that's where this leads to. I think we're very far from that. They've tried to pass new legislation in the past, but that didn't work. And so now they've got this lawsuit, and the crux of the lawsuit, really is it's sort of it's just a handful of things basically that they're let me pull up my notes on that.
They're basically accusing Amazon of unfair business practices, diluting the buyer experience and the seller experience by having too many ads and not good quality ads, charging us too many fees, and then having favoritism for their own brands and their own listings and 1P versus 3P. This is my understanding, but I'm sure it's a lot more detailed and there's other claims in there.
Yeah, so there's the anti-discounting measures, which is basically like this fair pricing policy that many of us have experienced both as resellers and brand owners, right? Where if your price, if the price of your product appears lower on another website, Amazon's basically trying to create what they call in retail most favored nation, or MFN status. They don't want anything on their platform selling for less. They don't want anything selling less.
So that's a
outside
really
the
good point
platform.
that I don't think a lot of viewers may even know, or like sellers know. And this is something that they just accidentally stumble across when it's too late or when you have a problem. So as a seller, if you sell your product on Amazon and then you have it listed on Walmart.com or on your own website or somewhere else, Amazon is constantly basically crawling the web to look for the same product. Now, you can even change the SKU, but they'll still tie it to your product. And what they'll do is they'll suppress your buy box if the price is found somewhere else. Now, even if it's your product, you're the one piece, like the owner of the brand, you're the only listing, not having the buy box, and the buy box is that corner up in the top, right, where you hit buy it now, and it's a one-click purchase type of thing. If that disappears, then people have to go look for other offers, find yours, choose to buy yours. That extra friction lowers your conversion rate significantly. And it becomes a huge problem for the seller. So it's something that's really bad for sellers. It lowers your sales and your conversions, which then impact your ranks, because ranks come from your performance. So this is a really unfair practice that they even do that, is the claim, right?
Yeah, and it's been and this practice has been going on for years, but so has the criticism. I mean, there was a civil class action lawsuit filed by one of the top class action firms in the country back in 2020. I think it's been a few years since that was filed.
And I thought they took action to say that they weren't going to do this anymore, and then it slowly started to happen again, like a year after that.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they've never really stopped doing it, and it's kind of funny. I don't know what action they think they took, but they have not stopped any. The practice is still alive and well.
I have lots of students who get suppressed because of this. Yeah,
especially resellers get nailed with this all the time. They get their prices. I get these. It's so funny. I was an Amazon seller, like 20 years ago. When was 2004? Was that almost 20? Yeah, actually I was.
Holy shit.
Almost 20 years ago. Yeah. I was an early Amazon seller. I was selling
when you were a teenager
DVDs.
Or what?
I appreciate that, man. No, I was in law school. I was like 20, 23, 24, and I was just looking for ways to make money and not go into debt. And I started making a ton of money, not enough to like not be a lawyer, because this was 03, 04, 05, and it wasn't even Amazon. Initially, it was like half.com, and I was even doing Craigslist, and there were some other ones. And Amazon kind of came in. I think Amazon opened up. But anyway, long story short, so I still have an Amazon account, and I still get pricing errors. Like they'll tell me that, I have Madden NFL 2010 or something, right, listed for $49.99 or whatever it is. And they'll say that's a really high price. And they give me these pricing errors and saying, we're going to suppress your listing, basically. And I find that hilarious.
And you have no inventory, obviously, because you would have paid a fortune in long-term storage fees. So
yes, exactly. So it's just an old listing that I had never deleted it when it went to zero. So now they're sending me these pricing errors all the time saying like your price is too high. Well, yeah, it's not 2010 anymore or whatever it was. Right. So it's like, I get these pricing errors all the time. So they are real. But I think it's funny how I get them, but yeah, so that's, and that's an issue. And but this is common in retail, right? Retailers want most favored nation. It's just, the way it is with Amazon is confusing, because it's sort of like, what is Amazon? Is Amazon a store like other stores? Like, right. I don't know if you remember the big issue, which surprisingly didn't show up on this one. When they started this, they were all about Amazon competing against its sellers. That was the big hot button issue.
Store versus marketplace, right?
Right.
I think that could have been catastrophic, because Amazon, as a nuclear bomb, can say, you know what, we are just a store, and and that would be bad for sellers.
Right, because that would put Amazon in a position to make arguments against a lot of what
exactly
a lot of what the FTC is saying. So, for example, take something, even though this wasn't in this lawsuit, it's been something the FTC's talked about certainly for years, competing against sellers. Do you know who else competes against sellers? Ever shop at Costco?
Yeah, Costco, Publix, Walmart,
Kirkland. Right.
You walk into an actual retail store, right? You have their brands in the favored display, like in the better spot, eye level, like whatever, right? Like wherever they want it, next to the major brand with a big discount coupon saying similar to the one next to us, probably made by the same factory. And so what Amazon is saying is that when you go on their website, they're just a store also. And that would be really bad for sellers, because then none of these things in a marketplace fairness type of way would even apply.
Right. And why and look at and also would call into questions Amazon's size, because what are Amazon's total retail sales compared to Walmart's, right?
Right.
You know, it's not, Amazon's not that big a retailer compared to its giant competitors, right? It's the biggest online retailer, right? But as a store compared to Walmart, it's really it's you know, and it creates an uncomfortable situation, because if you're telling Amazon that one day you're going to have to break apart your fulfillment service because it's anti-competitive, I mean, they're not going to say the same thing to Walmart, right? As
No.
at least as Walmart the store. And
Right.
a lot of what Amazon does, it's consignment resale, it's consignment, you know, wholesale with us sellers, right? We're not really stores ourselves. We don't know who our customers are. So we've always kind of been in this argument about who's the store here. And what I found interesting, I was reading the actual legal complaint that the SEC FTC, excuse me, filed. And they spend a lot of time trying to establish Amazon as not a marketplace, which is what they originally were trying to do when they were trying to pass legislation a few years ago. They were trying to refer to Amazon as like a marketplace, online marketplace. Now they call it an online superstore. And they're trying to make this argument that online superstores like Amazon are very different than offline superstores like Walmart and Target.
So they're trying to they're moving the goalposts and trying to redefine this new category so that they can put legislation around it.
Or so they can fit into their bucket of, I think the legislation road is dead. So I think they're trying to just fit it into their argument of, okay, this is why this is unlawful, right? But so, Amazon, but they're using the argument of online superstores to prevent Amazon from saying, hey, we're a marketplace. We're not a marketplace, we're a store. So they're trying to say, no, Amazon is a store. So I've noticed that they've taken that approach, but slightly different kind of store than other stores. And therefore you can't, what they're trying to say to the court is like, you can't compare Amazon to other brick and mortar retail stores. A very different argument.
Right.
I'm not sure they're winning that right now from what I'm reading. It's not compelling. You know, they talk about how it's, you know, with Amazon, it's possible to shop 24 hours a day. Last time I checked, many Walmarts, you can shop 24 hours a day in the store. Right. I mean, it's just little things like that. I'm not finding it compelling, this distinction that they're trying to draw.
I want to get through a few of these complaints in detail. And so it's interesting that the store versus marketplace didn't come up. I think that they've kind of seen that that's like a dead end and isn't going to get the results that they want. So they've kind of moved on from it. But there are very real concerns. And I brought up some of these recently in a video that I did around the fee changes, around getting rid of small and light program, increasing fees again, really burdensome fulfillment fees. And this one wasn't even brought up, is the fact that you get favorable storage fees if you use Amazon Storage Center, like new service center, versus like sending directly to Amazon 3PLs, or ship directly with Amazon Logistics into Amazon's holding centers versus using your own services. So they are creeping down that supply chain and continuously creating competitive advantages over the market, which is great. I think it's great that they can expand, but when it becomes onerous to do it yourself because they start to raise your fees if you choose not to use them, is when it becomes a problem in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the committee is. I think the counter argument to that is to say, look, again, go back to the store versus, this is what stores do, right? I mean, if I'm selling maple syrup, if I'm from Vermont and I'm selling pallets of maple syrup to Walmart to be sold all over the country, I'm going to be working with their logistics systems, right? They're going to be telling me where I need to palletize it, where to ship it to. And if I want to deviate from that, that's going to cost Walmart more money, right?
Right.
And that's sort of the analogy. They're going to say, look, we're just setting up, because at the end of the day, Amazon's just going to analogize all day long that this is nothing new.
But here's the problem, right? Like where it crosses a line in my mind is when Amazon tells us, if you can choose to use ours and maybe save a little bit of money, right? Maybe make it more efficient, maybe slightly more. But if you choose not to, we are going to give you additional fees, or it's going to be even more expensive moving forward, because they're trying to push, like they're trying to force you to use their service.
Right. Because they're trying to scale up their investments, right? They've invested in building these facilities, they want them used, right? I think you're right. I think, look, there are elements of this antitrust. There are definitely things here that are going to change what Amazon's going to do. And I think that was happening already. but I don't think you're getting to a breakup. Like I don't think the level of arguments, the level of concerns that FTC is raising, leads to the breakup of Amazon.com.
So let me ask you this, right?
Far away from that.
At the very least, right? You have AWS, which is a massive system. I don't think it impacts us as sellers. I don't think it really is related to the marketplace. I don't care if they own it. It's the most profitable piece of Amazon. Most people don't know that. And then you have like the marketplace, but within the marketplace is the problem, right? Because you have the ads platform, you have the brands, you have the 1P, like their own brands that they own. You have 1P, which is their wholesale business, and then you have third-party sellers, right? And I don't know if I missed anything in there, but those are the 4 elements that I think of when I think of Amazon on the selling side. Now, those 4 things are the problem when you have them together, when you start to want to create competitive advantages and give favorable placement to your brands, your wholesale accounts, and favorable ad positions, or reduced fulfillment fees as well. Oh, you have the FBA side as well. So the FBA side is where they also, I've seen many examples where if I want to sell a kid's furniture, for example, right, I'm in the toy space, and I've stayed away from a lot of oversized items, because I noticed that if I source from the same exact factory Amazon is using, I know the fees they're paying. I've talked to the factory owner. I know what they pay for the product. I pay the same thing. I bring it over. I ship it to Amazon just as efficiently as they can. They are selling the product for essentially like $2 if they pay the same fulfillment fees I would be paying.
Right.
Which I know is like a $2 profit, right? It's just impossible that they're doing that. What they're doing is they're just not counting the markup on the FBA fees the same way. They're not applying the same FBA fee to their own listing that I'm paying. And I've seen that because I can validate the product. I know the entire cost across the board. So that's a massive disadvantage for a third-party seller. Should that be allowed?
Yeah, I think that'll get fixed. I mean, I think again, there's going to be 2 sides to the argument, right? There's going to be, a lot of analogies going to be made. So take advertising PPC, they're going to make arguments like that's, this is like buying an end cap in a retail, right? So they're going to, a lot of analogies are going to come back and forth. But I think what's going to come out of this ultimately is I do think those things will be fixed. I think Amazon will be very willing to address those items that the FTC raises. And I think we will see change. Right. I think it's happening. I think the question is, where they're sitting, they're saying, okay,
you're saying the change that you think is going to happen is going to be that the fees are going to be applied evenly for their brands, their wholesale, their brands and third-party sellers.
Yeah. And I think they're going to require, Amazon's going to offer to do a better job of building a wall between, their wholesale their buyers, like if I had to guess, their buyers are going to have access to things that, they're going to want to, they're going to want to, if their buyers are buying, they want it to sell, right? And maybe they have advantages, maybe they have access to tools that we don't have. And so maybe, in addition to sort of owning the buy box when Amazon's on in the listing, they get other advantages. Maybe they don't have to pay for PPC as much. Maybe they don't pay at all. Maybe, right? Like you're raising very good points. I think that will get cleaned up at the end of this. I don't.
So you think there's going to be some kind of internal auditing system that is provided to a third party that shows we charged ourselves the right fees? We paid the same amount as Brandon and his brands.
Yeah, I think there will be ongoing scrutiny that will lead to the resolution of those points. I think that will come out of this 100%. I don't necessarily think this will go to like this going to a court, 10 years of litigation over these issues. I don't see it. I don't think it's a strong case. I don't think any of these, like none of these are holy, moly, we have to bring you up kind of issues, right? They're important, right? And they're worthy of fines, and they're certainly worthy of corrective action. But I'm not seeing the whole like Amazon is a monopoly and we need to break them up. And I think Amazon's going to fight very hard to say, hey, like you're not breaking up Walmart, you're not breaking up Target. We have a very similar skeletal infrastructure as those places, right? We're the same, right? We have a huge logistics operation, right? We're big retail. The fact that FBA fees are 50%, up to 50%, something that we've noted, something that they've noted in the complaint.
Yeah, it's insanity at this point. Like
it is, but a lot of retail, people don't realize a lot of retail has 50% markups, right?
yeah, it's
It's not
50, like
50%
you double,
markups.
double, double. So it's basically
You
50.
double exactly. So I mean, Amazon's, from where I'm sitting, I guess from the amount of time I've spent, is I've always seen Amazon. I always see the analogy of what Amazon's trying to do. Like they're really trying to mirror retail as much as they can, but take the risk off. And that's the cool thing about FBA is they don't have to take inventory risk. That's what they learned, right? They get all the inventory in house and the ability to serve the customer.
So yeah, that brings up a really good
have,
point that I think needs to be made, right? Because recently Amazon made this gesture where they said they're going to get rid of these third-party brands, and they made it seem like it was a gesture towards this antitrust movement or to in the favor of the third-party sellers, that they made that decision to, for whatever reason other than the fact that it wasn't as profitable. Now, let me explain the way that profit works for Amazon's brands. If they own the brand, they buy the products the same way I do. They customize them. They put their own brand name on them. they ship it into their warehouse the same way. It sits in their warehouses right next to my products. It's displayed on the page on search results, similar to my products. And when someone purchases it, it gets fulfilled the same way, right? So all of that should be equal. Now, here's the problem. The way that I do my calculation for profit is that I take my landed cost of goods sold, my advertising, I subtract my my advertising and my cost, and I get my profit. The way Amazon has to calculate their profit is the same way, except they have to also subtract the additional cost that they or the revenue that they did not receive from selling it to me or having me sell it. So if someone had clicked on an ad to buy my product instead of their product, they would get ad revenue. If someone had bought my product instead of their product, they would get 15% commission. If someone had bought my product instead of their product, they would get the profit on the delta between their cost of doing FBA and what they charge us for FBA. So what ends up happening is they have a different way of calculating net profit versus me, because they also have that cost benefit of that they lose if I had sold the product versus them. And so what they quickly figured out, and then they have the overhead of the person that is in charge of running that brand, of making sure the inventory is in place, the infrastructure to get it there, all of those things that they no longer need to stress or have or do on the books. So by eliminating their own a large percentage of their own brands, they quickly realized that the demand vacuum would be filled by third-party sellers like me. They wouldn't lose a single ounce of, like, a penny of revenue, right? Because anyone searching a search result wouldn't even notice their brand's missing, and the next brand just takes its place, right? And now their bottom line goes up. They become much more profitable by getting rid of those brands. And it wasn't that the brands weren't profitable or good brands or good designs, or the products weren't good products. It was simply because it's more profitable to not be competing against us, because they make so much money from ad revenue and from us selling versus them having to have the overhead to do it themselves.
Exactly. In fact, I think, there was, I was talking to this PhD student years ago who was doing an antitrust investigation. And he said, by the numbers, it speaks volumes, right? Like the amount of money Amazon makes on private label, especially if you back out batteries and clothing. I think it's what we would consider in corporate a rounding error. It's just not material, right? That the actual profit margin on what they're making. So if they're, it's not worth, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, in my opinion, to have those brands anymore. It just isn't. And, were there people at Amazon that were, using data? I'm sure 100%. I'm sure some people were. Was it, a widespread practice? I'm sure it was at one point. I'm sure they put a stop to it, and I'm sure they're still trying to contain it. I mean, the problem with big matrix organizations like Amazon is it's hard to control people, right? Everyone has their own incentive, right? and then I'm somebody who came from most of my legal career. I worked for Walmart, I worked for Microsoft, I worked for General Electric. So I spent my life in these mega corporations, right? And there's internal politics and internal metrics.
And
So
disagreements.
people,
Yeah.
oh, massive. I mean, Walmart is a classic example of just, the culture of Walmart is, hey, look, stores are our profit center, right? Walmart physical stores they hate e-commerce, right? Like when I was at Walmart, there was a whole just complete disdain for e-commerce. They saw it as a cannibalistic medium, the store, and you never would get, any projects to expand e-commerce were always kind of like, the old Bentonville boys of the stores would always have kind of their control over it and would always make sure it never really went anywhere. So, I mean, if you ever wonder why Walmart is where it is today in terms of its e-commerce, it's because nobody bought in. Like,
Yeah.
in fact, it was looked at as a threat.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
they've
similarly
started
with Amazon,
now in fairness, over the last few years, they've invested a lot of money to try to catch up.
to try to catch up, right?
What I've
But,
noticed though is that they're not doing anything innovative. They're just copying, which means they're always going to be behind.
correct. They are always copying, and it is unfortunately they just don't have the market capture the way Amazon did, right? Which is Prime, right? They did that. Amazon Prime was a way to Amazon really cleverly and caught, captivated the market. It was, in my opinion, very cheap in the early days because it was subsidized via tax savings. The amount of money you could save in sales tax more than paid for your Prime membership. So it was easy to justify your membership back in the day. And it really took over. And one of the things I predicted back in 2018, I wrote this editorial for CNN. And it's the Shopify is that, one way that you have to fix this is you may have to make Prime accessible to other platforms like Shopify so that, because there's not much we can do about it, right? And in fact, one of the breakup proposals I had thought about back in the day was maybe removing that element of Prime and the delivery network from Amazon. And I know that's been talked about, but I don't think it's happening. I don't think that this is going to do that. But that's the idea is that, Amazon created this captivated audience that's just super loyal, very sticky, right? They're Prime members. If you know anything about like Amazon, in my opinion, I always look at Amazon whenever I'm analyzing Amazon's moves. I'm usually looking at it from the perspective of like, how is this good for the Prime member? So why does Amazon care so much? Go back to what we just spoke about. Why does Amazon care so much about prices being lower on other platforms? If you ask me, in my opinion, it's optics. And it goes back to sort of what people view as the Costco model. People have to value that Prime membership. Amazon's asking me to fork out over $100 a year to be a Prime member. If I'm a Prime member and I go online and I'm finding products cheaper on other websites, I'm going to question why I'm a Prime member, unless I really like the Tom Clancy TV show. Aside from those people who really like Tom Clancy's TV show, people are going to question, why am I paying you, right? Why would I pay Costco $100 a year to be a member of Costco if I'm not finding value or convenience out of what they're offering, right? One or the other. And I think with Amazon, that's the concern. So I always look at it, what's in the best interest of the Prime member. That's who Amazon's really out to protect. That's their sort of their fortress of additional capital that they get every year, and they want to protect that. So that's why I think, Amazon acts the way it acts sometimes is they're always looking for, what's the best way to appease the Prime member.
Let's shift to the ads argument as well. So over the last 2 years, cost per clicks have continued to rise despite the fact that there are double, maybe even triple the amount of ad placements. Over half, probably 2/3 of any search result now are paid placements. Like there's more paid than organic now. What is the argument? Why does the government care about the buyer experience? If the buyer, why can't a free market speak towards if the buyer experience starts to get so poor that that the buyers are fed up with it, they would just go shop somewhere else. So why does the government have to stand in? Now I'm not a lot of times when you try to regulate something, you end up making it worse. So this one confuses me. I hate it as a seller. I think it's insane that I'm paying so much in fees. But if I don't like it, I don't have to sell on Amazon. And if a buyer goes on a search result and they're getting spammed with ad, organic, ad, and they don't like it, they don't have to shop on Amazon either. So why is this a problem?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. This was part of and I honestly don't know. Well, the ad side aside, the part about there was this degrading the customer experience by replacing relevant organic search results with paid advertisements, basically what they're calling junk ads, right? Why is that a problem? I agree with you. I mean, to some extent, I'm not sure that's purely an antitrust problem because, like you said, at some point, if it really gets bad, people will walk, right? People, if the experience really gets that awful. That should never be the
concern of the government.
Right. But the government is sort of saying Amazon's such a monopoly here that people don't have a choice, I guess. It's a very good question, that one I had too, because that's my point of view. That's not an antitrust concern, like quality of service, unless they're trying to argue the lack of competition allows Amazon to get away with that, right? That would be their argument, right? That because there's just so little competition in the space, right? Because you don't really have Walmart, you don't really have, none of those are viable.
I think moving forward, we're going to see a change there. You got TikTok, Temu, and Shein and Walmart, all making.
TikTok to me is the scariest. TikTok is the most fascinating thing in the world in terms of e-commerce, right? Like that to me is going to, because now
I've been saying
it
for years that I think they're going to be one of the top three if they're not already, like as far as e-commerce. And I bet when the numbers come out in the next quarter, now that they've turned on shopping, that everyone's going to be blown away by the amount of volume that they're doing with TikTok Shop.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my prediction from 2 years ago saying that they would within the next 2 years be the top three is going to come to fruition. Now you've got other players entering the space like Temu. Temu's got a massive advantage because they're the anti-FBA, right? They buy your products from you and deliver it to their Chinese warehouse, right? And they ship when it sells, and they handle like an FBA service for you, but it's more all of just like wholesaling your products. Now, they also don't charge you because of that. They don't charge you a FBA fee built into every single product that you sell.
Right.
And that's the problem with why Amazon can't compete with lower cost products anymore. Because if you guys reference back to the video I literally released a week ago, it shows that the FBA model is broken and you can't, as a seller, compete with a cheaper product because every individual item has shipping built into it as if it's the only thing in the box, which oftentimes it's not. So what ends up happening is when someone buys 10 different items and it arrives in 2 boxes or 1 box, they paid as if it came in 10 boxes. And because it's built in already, and the seller and they charge the seller for that as if it's in 10 boxes. And Amazon's just taking all of it as profit, and therefore the customer is paying more. And that system is broken, and Temu is fixing that.
Do you ever address like because I've always been curious about the math on this. Like, how does the fact that I'm paying for a Prime membership and therefore entitled to free shipping, how does that trickle down to the seller versus Amazon? Has that ever been addressed?
It doesn't trickle down to the seller at all. Because every single item we sell is we have to build in a fee, and they used to. I remember as of 2018 or 19, they changed the policy that for every additional item you sold to the same seller, or buyer, if you sold 2 or 3 or 4 of something, you saved the 50 cents or $1 per item.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Those are the best. Right? The twofers.
They eliminated that.
Yeah.
Which was, to me, frankly, like, and excuse my French, bullshit, because they clearly are not having to pay that additional fee anymore. Right? Like it's going in 1 box, it's getting shipped in 1 box, but I'm paying the shipping on each individual item as if it's not in 1 box. So until Amazon can find a way to pass along those rebates or savings back to us when they can fit more than 1 thing in a box, then we can no longer compete with someone on Temu or with retail stores.
TikTok. Yeah,
or TikTok or retail stores.
I'm just wondering, because I mean, as a consumer, am I, as a Prime member consumer, am I thinking to myself, well, hey, I bought from Brandon, but I'm a Prime member, but it doesn't seem like I'm getting the full Prime benefit if Brandon has to charge me.
Retail buyers or shoppers don't know yet that this is even a thing. This is because of the monopoly that Amazon has had up until this point. They don't even know that they've been getting taken advantage of on these orders with 5, 6, 10 items. But when Temu shows you the difference in an ad, that's when buyers are going to go, oh, I could have saved $10 on that order if I had just bought those products over there. And now, instead of that cart size being $80, it's going to be $70. Shoppers are going to pay attention.
It goes to the show. And I think, to me, this sums up kind of a bigger picture issue I have with this antitrust is that, we spent a lot of effort working with the subcommittee members and trying to sort of, build a seller advocacy element of it, right? If you remember back in 21, we were saying, hey, look, I don't know about your legislation. Sure, we'll support it. I don't know if it's going to do any good because you're going after the marketplace. And that was that whole store versus marketplace thing. But, one of the things we wanted to see was just more like regulation from a transparency perspective of like seller fairness, like almost like a seller bill of rights, something that we worked on in California years ago and got sort of a skeleton version of that. One that tells you, where Amazon has to tell you why you're being taken offline, right? Because God knows that's a headache. Why are, one where
your efforts there have led to a couple programs. And I want to thank you for that, because anyone watching this might not even know that up until that time, like over only the last 2 years when this has become a policy, Amazon would just suspend you first and ask questions later. And it was extremely disruptive to business. Your listings could be killed. You could be put out of business overnight because all of a sudden your revenue dried up. And these were, with all things considered, minor infractions a lot of times, with one product out of many where you had an issue. And all of a sudden Amazon says, you know what, you must be taken down until we can investigate what's happening. And then that investigation would take days or weeks or months. And you have workers, you have overhead, you have employees, you have inventory, you have costs that are building up. And so it would bankrupt people. And now, because of the efforts you made with the seller bill of rights that I think they've extended, there are programs now where Amazon has said, you know what, we are not going to suspend you. We will give you notice to where you can respond.
72-hour notice. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can respond. Mm-hmm. You have 24 or 48 hours to respond before your account is suspended so that we understand what's happening. And that is escalated to the highest department within Amazon, with people with brains that know what they're reading and can understand a situation, complex situations, and make decisions on whether you truly are someone that needs to be taken off the platform because you're a danger to the seller or to the buyers, right? That's the main thing. They want to protect their buyers first, which is always
absolutely
not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, you have to respect what they're trying to do and how hard it is. Like there is an element. They're under constant attack by scammers, like constant attack, right?
Like ultimately, I just want to thank you for what you've done there, because people don't understand how little money sometimes it takes to influence politicians. It's really one of the biggest problems in America. But at the same time, having someone that is advocating for you versus someone else is as long as it's being used for good, you got to use the system as the system is broken. And so you have to use it to your advantage, and you've done that. And I want to thank you for that. Yeah, and we want to continue doing it. I mean, we'd love to revamp. I mean, I still think there's plenty of opportunity to really fundraise and put that lobby in place that just is there, 24/7 representing our interests in DC. I feel like that needs to happen. I still feel strongly about that. And there's been a revamped interest in revisiting that from some newer sellers I've met. And one day we'll fully get there. But yeah, I mean, people have to understand there are options. There are ways to, we as sellers, as a community of e-commerce sellers, there's so many of us. We really do have the potential to be a very strong voice and to be a very formidable adversary to Amazon in a friendly way, not in a way where we're trying to crush it, but in a way where we can sort of establish our own level playing field and demand better treatment, better results, better, whatever. And there's a way to do that, but it's not easy. But it requires kind of working together and building that voice the way so many other public advocacy groups have done it for their own business interests. It's not rocket science. This is what we used to do when I was at Walmart. I was a registered lobbyist. I'd go and yap about stupid bills in various states, and it's not hard, but that is how the game is played. Right. And so I would love to see us take that to the next level and keep it up. Right. But I apprecithis that, Brand. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I mean, as far as
did we miss any of the points there from this bill?
From this lawsuit,
or from the
nothing
lawsuit?
really. Like you said, Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, there's the high, the 50% fees, the fact that you have to have your stuff on Amazon fulfillment network to be Prime eligible, the discount, fair pricing policy, the 50% markup, in terms of what the fees effectively equate to a 50% fee. And that degradation of the customer experience. Those were really the five. That's why I'm saying it's not the juiciest complaint I've ever read. I mean, granted, it's
Yeah.
172 pages and I haven't gone through it all yet. But it's not the juiciest thing. Like, it's not the kind of thing, to me, in my opinion. I don't think they really had a strong
There were more
lawsuit. I think they
serious
just,
problems that they didn't fully understand that they could have addressed and they didn't, and that's a major problem.
yeah, exactly.
So
That's been our
here's the thing though
concern
too,
since
and
the
I do
start of
want to
this
wrap
thing.
on this. And you and I know you'll
Mm-hmm.
agree on this. As much as we're pushing back because we're getting squeezed, right? Amazon has
Mm-hmm.
changed my life. It has changed the life of hundreds of my students. I have personally created hundreds of millionaires through my coaching program.
Mm-hmm.
I've become a
Mm-hmm.
multi millionaire from selling on Amazon. Now, so I have to express my gratitude to Amazon for the opportunity that they provided us and to millions of sellers. That being said, I mean, we need to make sure that that opportunity remains something, right? Because otherwise it's going to get squeezed to the point where only the largest sellers are going to remain at ultra thin margins, and then that opportunity disappears. So as it stands right now, it's still, to me, the greatest business opportunity to start a business and become a millionaire within 2 years.
I mean, undoubtedly. I mean, you imagine, like, I have a lot of clients who go on Shark Tank, and I feel like it's one of those classic cases of, like, where TV doesn't represent reality, and it's always a bad situation for a lot of my clients that come out of Shark Tank for some reason, and it seems to be the just complete lack of knowing Amazon. Like, it seems like the Shark Tank people historically just did not give Amazon, and it was so funny to me that I would see these people who just fought so hard to get their product to market, get it out there, get on Shark Tank, hopefully get something, and they get nothing. And it's like, no, you should have just launched on Amazon. You would have had a better shot. And you can do it with so little startup capital. And it
Right.
explains why so many women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses. I mean, it's really not just, it's really profound how it's just created opportunity for everyone, the everyday person. And it's not just
Right.
brand creation, it's also arbitrage, just reselling. I mean, people who resell make a lot of money just doing that game all day long. Is
Right.
that, obviously I'm a fan of brand ownership because, we do exits for our clients, right? We do the legal side of the exits, especially when there was a lot of aggregators. I mean, we've helped our clients realize over $250 million in fees. I think we're almost at $500 million now in revenue from selling their businesses. So I love the brand ownership and I love the opportunity that it provides. And I think
Right.
there's never been a time in America, right, where the little guy or girl has had access to the national economy in this way, right? I think that's what e-commerce really did, is it
Right.
created something called a global small business. That's what I call it, right? The
I
global small
I
business. And that just
100%
would have been
agree.
an oxymoron.
I think that what we need to keep in mind is that we need to find how to make our efforts more pointed and more precise. Lawsuits like what happened, like that, what they filed today, to me, are not specific enough and don't address the specific issues that sellers face. It's a real miss by the government and the FTC, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
we need to make sure that these types of lawsuits don't make it worse on us sellers, because
Exactly.
that's a
And that's
possibility. That's a
that's
real possibility. And so there
mm-hmm.
are things we can advocate for that would be a really big win-win for Amazon and sellers. And that's what we need to try to figure out. How do we partner with Amazon and become true partners with them versus adversaries that are constantly just trying to not lose the little bit we have left? And so that's something where if we can come to the table with Amazon and continue to discuss what are the challenges we face as sellers, what are the opportunities you're providing, how can we do it, how can they share in some of those savings that they get when people order more than one item, right? How can they start to make some of these fees a little less onerous? How can they open up the ability to sell certain products with razor thin margins? How can they be a little less taxing on the ads? These types of conversations we can have, and we can live in harmony and continue to be prosperous together. We won't want to go sit, like right now, I have a channel manager for Walmart I have a channel manager for Temu. I just got courted because my brands do over $30 million a year. I just got courted to sell on Shein as a partner, right? They are going and they're choosing brands that have displayed the ability to sell high quality products, and a lot of them from Amazon, and bring them over, and we're going to be one of those featured brands. So I'm actively now looking for other opportunities because of what Amazon's doing to us. And it's only going to hurt Amazon in the long run if they continue to squeeze us. So how do we come to the table with that? Sit down in the same room and say, look, these things are what are pushing us away and what are going to continue to make it more difficult for new sellers to come to the table. But these types of lawsuits that happen today, I don't think are it. I think that it's a big miss.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think we do have to punch at Amazon a little bit. I'm all for, like, I don't want to see Amazon broken up. I don't want to see Amazon go away. I'm also always worried about what Amazon could do in response, because Amazon doesn't like to be told what to do. So when the government starts to do stuff like this, I worry about what Amazon, like 2 years ago when this whole antitrust thing was really, they were talking about the legislation, we were worried that Amazon might, shut down the marketplace as we know it. Not really shut it down, but sort of change the dynamic so it is a store, so that we become vendors, not sellers, and in an effort to sort of, again, bring that analogy back that they're no different than other stores, other than that they're more consignment reliant than other stores. And so
as often is the
like
case, when government
me.
steps in, they cause more harm than good with regulation, because they don't fully understand the consequences and what's happening, and they don't have subject matter experts that can really lay it out. So you actually are there speaking to legislators. You're trying to get your voice heard. You're speaking to the news. You're putting it out. You're lobbying for us. Unfortunately, they're not listening enough to you and to us sellers. They're doing what they think is right because big bad Amazon and whatever, right? And big bad corporations. Look, maybe there's a way that we can triangulate from wherever they're at to wherever Amazon's at, and we can come in the middle as sellers and work with Amazon directly to get some of these programs. But thank you for spending an hour with me today and
no problem,
and discussing this. I think that this probably one of the most important things that's happened for sellers in a long time, and we really need to understand it.
I agree, and I'll keep working on it. We'll keep reading through and keep understanding, get back to you as it develops. But thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate it. A lot of fun.
Great to see you, man.